Hello and welcome to a new pick a card reading. In today's reading, we are keeping it open and we are just asking, what do you need to hear at this time? Wanted to keep it a little bit general just to allow Spirit to push out whatever you need at this point in time. I have prepared 3 groups with colors and then I matched some crystals on top. So let's start off. This is group 1, group 2, group 3. What do you need to hear at this time? What do you need to know right now? What's a message that's been trying to reach you? So group 1, you have the color called UFO. And it's a little bit more bluish in person than it's looking on the camera right now. And along with that, I chose this beautiful celestite. Group 1, this is your ethereal combo. And then we have group 2 with the color card Dark Granite. And then this is your crystal. This is a labradorite. More specifically, this is a spectrolite. That is your combo, group 2. And then group 3, your color card is Opal Fire. And your crystal is a peach moonstone. They go so nicely together in person, all of these. I don't know that it's coming across on camera as close of a color match as it is in person. However, these are your options, these are your groups. I am going to give you a moment to either zone in or zone out, whichever you need to discern which group is calling you. And I will meet you at your group. The timestamps are in the description below, as always. And again, we are simply asking, what do you need to hear today? What do you need to know right now? What's going on? And I will meet you at your reading. Hi group 1, this is your reading if you chose the UFO and celestite combo. We're going to set your crystal up here and the color right over here, and we're going to get into it. So let's just do a regular check-in, Spirit, for group 1. What does group 1, our little ethereal group, what does group 1 need to know at this point in time? What do we need to talk about? What's going on? What do we need to bring to our awareness? Essentially, this is a general reading. I don't know where it's going, but we will see. Spirit, what do we need to talk about for group 1? Taking their time, that's fine. We want the right cards to come out, not just any cards. What do we need to talk about for group 1? Now they want to act like it's a matter of time. We have the Knight of Swords, we have the Three of Swords. We have the Four of Pentacles. We have the Page of Pentacles. And then there is the Wheel of Fortune at the bottom of the deck. Okay, so the first thing that I'm feeling is that there's a sense of urgency here with the Knight of Swords, but the fact that I take everything into consideration, the way the cards come out matters to me. I don't know what happened there. And the fact that it took a second for a card to come out and then the Knight of Swords came out, it kind of feels like you think you're running behind on something. You think you missed out on an opportunity, or you're about to miss out, or like you're falling behind, like you're not keeping up the pace. It's kind of like maybe we procrastinated on something and now we're playing catch up. And it kind of feels like you may be burning the candle at both ends right now because you're feeling like there is this need for you to catch up to something. And to me, this kind of feels like you had a certain awareness around something and you just didn't act. And now your awareness is confirmed and you feel a little emboldened because your awareness is confirmed. But at the same time, that confirmation then also is showing you that you didn't act on the intuitive knowledge that you had. Like the intuitive input that you received, you didn't act on it. And so maybe that's where some of the tension is coming from, that you're kind of feeling like frustrated because you have not been acting in alignment with your own wisdom. However, I will say that I think for the most part, you just feel like you're running behind. You just feel like you're catching up. You just feel like you're running out of time. I don't necessarily think that that's the case because we got the Wheel of Fortune at the bottom of the deck here after this moment of realization of, oh wow, look at what I can do under pressure. Oh wow, look at what I'm capable of if I just put my mind to it. So this is really kind of like the energy of pulling an all-nighter and being really frustrated with yourself for having put yourself in this position, but still pulling through. And therefore, sometimes when we have an unhealthy pattern and we get away with it, the problem is that we then don't correct the pattern because we got away with it. So this is kind of interesting with the Four of Pentacles and the Page of Pentacles. I think it's going to depend on what else comes out to see if you are actually taking a valuable lesson from this. Because right now it kind of just feels like got away with it, and then we're maybe not taking as much of it into the next season as we should. And what I mean by season is that with this Wheel of Fortune, I do feel like the sense of urgency that you're feeling is something you're picking up on because you are sensing a shift. However, I think the shift is a little bit slower than you think it may be. Like, to me, this is giving like running super dramatically towards an elevator because you think it's about to close and you'll miss it, or even a subway, right? Running and making a complete fool out of yourself, not to judge or anything, but I'm just trying to create the visual that I have in my mind, like being super dramatic, like and running towards the subway, and then you get on the subway and the doors are still open for like another 3 minutes and everybody saw you running and being super dramatic. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to laugh, but that's the way the energy feels, because to me this Wheel of Fortune is saying like you're on time, like you're not running behind, you're on time. Okay, tell me about this Knight of Swords. We have the Judgment card. Exactly. You feel like, oh no, I heard to you, it seems like there's, energetically speaking, spiritually speaking, there was like this last call, right? But think of it this way. Think of an establishment that does the last call way before the actual real last call, because they know that otherwise they're not going to get the patrons out of their bar in time if they really stick to just the last call. You know what I mean? So there's something here where you sensed a shift and you're like, oh man, this is last call. And Spirit is saying like, no, actually, you know what this feels like? So when it's really important for me to be awake early at a very particular time because, I have to take a plane or something, like when it's really vital to make sure you're waking up on time, I tend to set multiple alarms in my phone, right? And I'll set one for, 5:30, but I'll also set one for like 5:42, like a random time, so that I still have something that is unrelated that will go off, that won't interfere with like the snooze feature. Anyways, you don't need to know all that, but that's what this feels like. This feels like you hear an alarm and you're like, oh man, I'm running late, and then after a while you realize, oh, I'm totally on time. Like, I'm fine. But you stress yourself out for a minute here with this Three of Swords. Tell me about this Three of Swords. We have the King of Cups. Tell me about this Four of Pentacles. Okay, so this feels like this is definitely in regards to a decision or a situation or some kind of action that you're taking towards something that you are emotionally invested in with this King of Cups. And it has an impact on your emotional well-being, meaning that this definitely affects like any kind of disturbance to you feeling like you're not showing up the way you're supposed to in regards to whatever the situation may be, whatever this feels like where you're lagging. It has a real impact on your self-esteem with this King of Cups. And so with the Four of Pentacles, here's where we're kind of like making up for it, right? We said that, you may be procrastinating, but then you pull an all-nighter and you're like, haha, look, sometimes I'm just on top of it, so you still kind of manage to produce, right? And even based on like the limited resources that you have or the limited supply that you have, you make the most of things. You make the most of a certain situation. And that is something that in turn, even though you ended up in a situation, I don't want to put this all on you because maybe it wasn't your choice, but even though you find yourself in a situation where it feels like you're running behind, it feels like you're not where you're supposed to be, that thought process, that feeling of judgment towards yourself is really clouding your self-esteem. And the fact that you still manage to pull through, then in turn is kind of like it's kind of like a balm on your self-esteem, meaning it kind of soothes the irritation that's taken place from the fact that you put yourself in that situation in the first place, or found yourself in that situation in the first place. Tell me about the Page of Pentacles. We have the Page of Swords. See, this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. So the question is, are we going to learn from this? Because you were able to manage even in the nick of time. You were able to manage under pressure, and even in a position where you feel like your self-esteem is not at its best, you're still able to perform, to produce, to manage. So then what is the lesson here? The lesson is, now imagine if you did it in a way where you didn't rush yourself. Imagine you did it in a way where you didn't pressure yourself. Imagine you did it in a way that was structured and allowed room for you to feel less anxious and more secure. Imagine what you would be capable of producing, progressing, evolving. Because that's the thing, we have two pages here, and I said that earlier, that it's going to matter what's going to come out underneath here, because that's going to inform whether you're actually taking this lesson to heart. Yes, you are realizing this, yes, you are bringing awareness to this, but we're going to have to bring changed action, like implement some kind of integration of this lesson. Because chances are you've experienced it multiple times and have never fully integrated the lesson. Exactly. We have the Five of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. Because the Five of Pentacles, it kind of feels, okay. it really doesn't matter which area of your life this is about. This can have to do with work, this can have to do with school, this can have to do with family relationships or romance, friendships, anything like that. Because the heart of the matter is that there is a pattern of avoiding something until it feels like we are lagging behind. And then that puts us, imagine energetically, it's kind of like a checking account, right? That puts us in a negative, right? Now we're in the red because we're feeling like we're lagging behind. We're feeling like we're having to catch up. So we have to multitask. We have to do all this extra effort because we're not feeling good about the fact that we allowed it to get to this place. So then we have to put in all this extra effort. So by the time that you accomplish whatever this is, you're not in the red anymore. You've made it to 0. But you're still at 0. And that's why when you go through that process, you still don't feel accomplished. You still don't feel proud of yourself because you've only managed to get to status quo of 0 instead of getting out of the red and getting into the black and starting to make a surplus, right? And we're still talking energetically here. But we are talking about energetically feeling good about yourself, feeling accomplished, feeling like I'm in control of what I need to do and when I need to do it and how it makes me feel. This has everything to do with like being grounded in your approach to taking action. Okay, so I do think that this has a lot to do with the way that our mental status, like our mental checking account, is affecting the way that we are capable or incapable of taking action. Because technically, I think you're going through a process here where you should feel proud of yourself, and yet at the end of the day, because you put it in this frame of like, I just barely scraped by, I just barely made it, you're not recognizing the process or the progress that happens of getting yourself out of the hole and back to status quo. Because to you, you're still just looking at the fact of like, well, I'm still at 0. Let's get some energies on this. Also, I want to take a peek underneath here. The 3 of Wands. Yeah, so this is what's affecting this attitude of like, well, I still don't have what I need, or I still don't, like, I don't feel accomplished, because it's like you're already looking to the next, right? You're looking forward, which is great because we're not supposed to be completely focused on looking backward either. But it's kind of like you're avoiding until it's almost too late, and then you're just looking forward and looking at everything that you don't have yet, instead of appreciating the dexterity in which you switch from, oh my God, I'm running behind, to actually being able to get it together. Look at with this 9 of Pentacles and this 4 of Pentacles right after, the fact that you're able to do it while, oh, that's actually making me think of the that Taylor Swift song, where she's singing, I can do it with a broken heart, right? Now imagine if I wasn't brokenhearted, like the energy that I would bring to this situation. That's kind of what's coming through. Absolutely. We have the 12th house, we have Taurus energy, and we have Venus energy. So the 12th house is the house of the subconscious. It is a house of solitude. It is really kind of like the darker crevices of our mind. And so this has everything to do with the way that our mental health, the probably a lot of it has to do with the dialogue that we have with ourselves, the way that we communicate with ourselves, how that affects the way our ability to take action. Okay, 12th house is the subconscious and the mental health aspects of that. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and we have both Taurus and Venus coming out here. And so Taurus and Venus, which currently we have Venus in Taurus, that is the current transit, and it's a beautiful transit because, again, Venus rules Taurus. She's at home in Taurus, and that has to do with the fact that Taurus energy is all about enjoying the physical riches around us, and Venus loves to enjoy anything, and especially like the splendor of life in its physical form, the sensations of that. And so I think this is coming through with the message of needing to be more kind in the way that you experience self-talk and your mental health, and allowing yourself to make yourself feel good. Like, it's okay to feel good. It's okay to treat yourself. It's okay to, there's just something about being more more grateful for the ways in which you do take care of yourself, the ways in which you do overcome and achieve, and you're just not fully giving yourself credit for that. I think that's mainly what's coming through. Also, we are 17 minutes in, and this is the first time that I even looked up at the camera. Sorry, we've been crooked. Okay, I got really sucked into your reading. Okay, Spirit, can you give us some of the more significant energies for group 1 at this time? We have unknown. Specifically what's coming through with unknown, I was thinking of this 3 of Wands, and to me this kind of feels like there's an unknown potential within you. Yes, unknown, and we have growth. There is an unknown potential within you. And it's because I think you have this pattern of like leaving things to the last minute, and trust me, no judgment, I'm a huge procrastinator. But this is not just procrastination, this is deeper than that, because this has to do with your ability to leverage the way that you think and how it leads you to take action. And I know I've said this like the 3rd time I've said it, but that's coming through so strong, because it's about understanding that if you figure out how to leverage your mental health or the way that you communicate yourself in situations where you are shaming yourself, when you learn how to leverage that, then you learn how to effectively avoid your own blind spot. So it's like creating a shortcut, because it's really about kind of eliminating the shame aspect of it and allowing yourself to take action when you need to, because whenever we procrastinate, it typically has a lot to do with the judgment that we kind of pull into the situation in the creative mode, right? Either there's something that we're supposed to be doing, that we're supposed to be completing. It's usually a project where we have to create something. And when we are so focused on the way that it is going to look afterwards, then that kind of halts us from starting, because then we put this pressure on it of like, I want to be able to give it my full attention, and I just don't feel like I can do that right now. So that's when we start pushing things off. So there's some kind of disconnect between our ability to there's some kind of disconnect in the way that your mind is framing things, which is stopping you from taking action when it would be less stressful to actually take action. And so then we create kind of like this pushing out towards, we push ourselves to our limits, but then we don't recognize the fact that, wow, we operate really well under those limits being pushed. And so Spirit is saying that you're not recognizing how far you've pushed yourself towards growth, and how flexible you are, how bendable you are. Like, there's a lot where you are simply not recognizing your own growth. That's coming through strongly. Okay, we're going to get you some advice. Spirit, in order for group 1 to really fully integrate this message and use it for their best benefit. What is an energy to release for group 1? What is an energy to release, to grow away from? We have poet. And then what is an energy to embrace, something to grow towards? I don't know about that. Okay, both of these are a little bit abstract, so that's interesting, especially because I feel like this topic in general is a little bit abstract because it seems like something that is affecting you on a very like psychological level. So the energy to grow away from, to release, we have poet, and then the energy to embrace, we have gambler. So I think the main difference here is that poet is expressive and gambler is intuitive. With poets, you know what I'm getting here? Because I was saying there's some kind of disconnect in like your line of communication between, and I hope that this makes sense. If you struggle with this, I think it would make sense. But it's almost as if, imagine that is quite frankly how the body works, but imagine like your logical mind being centered in your brain, right? And then your body being like a marionette. That's why I'm struggling with this, because I'm like, yeah, where are we going with this metaphor? Because that's literally how the body works. But they're telling me that there's some kind of disconnect between those two things, between the physical body, which I don't think that's literal. I think that's a metaphor. So it's the way that we take action, the way that we move. There's some kind of disconnect. It's almost like they're speaking two languages, and that's what's coming through with poet, because for poet, what I'm thinking about is the room for interpretation. There is something where language, specifically the words that you use either with yourself or that other people have used against you, we're using them in a very like dramatic way. And that's like the second time that I've said something within your reading feels dramatic, right? And I'm also now being recalled back to the fact that I mentioned a Taylor Swift song, and I'm seeing the Three of Swords here, which kind of feels tortured poet. So there's a little bit of melodrama here. And I'm not saying that with any judgment. I'm just saying that you are being unnecessarily harsh on yourself. And that is something where Spirit is saying, it's not productive. It's romantic because it's tortured, and it's so like, it's a vibe. It's emo. I get it. Trust me, I absolutely get it. We can get lost in that sometimes though. And so with Gambler, I think we're being drawn to find our way out of this sort of abstract dialogue between your mind and the way that you take action, and to employ an interpreter, because nothing's more frustrating than reading a poem and being like, I don't get it. I don't get what I don't get what the point is. I don't get the emotions. I don't get none of it. But then you can have somebody interpret it for you and be like, oh, well, there's this theme and there's this reoccurring imagery, blah, blah. And then be like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. That totally makes sense. Cool. That is what your intuition is meant to do, between the way that you take action and the way that you communicate with yourself. I hope that makes sense, because it's coming through pretty clearly that this is an opportunity for you to engage your intuition into this conversation, and your intuition would inform you, hey, we've been here before, we do this all the time, maybe we should try doing this because this kind of affects our self-esteem, and I want us to be balanced. I want us to be tempered. So that is what would help you to integrate the information from this reading. Spirit, any last considerations or advice for group 1? Any last considerations or advice? We have treasure, and I will say it again, you do not recognize the ways in which you overcome, the ways in which you achieve, the ways in which, because you just look at, the raw data and you're like, well, I'm not any better off than I was before. And it's like, yes, you are though. And I know that it feels frustrating because it kind of feels like you put yourself in some position. Like I'm seeing Mario Kart now, and I'm thinking of like racing, and how they do like pre-qualifiers, and that, I don't know anything about racing, but that determines like where you start at the race, like at the line, right? And there was something where something went wrong during pre-qualifying races, and so you're starting in the back and you feel like, now I'm so far behind and I can't do it, and it's like you're completely dismissing your skill. You're completely dismissing your ability. And if you learn from this situation and integrate it in a way where you won't put yourself in that position, in that pattern again, then there's nothing to worry about, quite frankly. Then, but we have to make sure that we take that lesson with us. Okay, we are going to get one last oracle card, and this one we read from the booklet, as always. Spirit, any last advice for group 1? Also, I just realized that this card that says treasure, the blues totally match with like looks a little bit more intense on the camera, so I don't know. But in person, it matches really nicely with this blue-gray of the Celestite and the UFO color. And that just is calling me back to the fact that Celestite is very much about meditation. It enhances our ability to communicate with our intuition. So very much, and especially communication, right? With the Knight of Pentacles, there's just something where your communication, Celestite is also about, like, it's kind of angelic. And so there's something about becoming softer and more tempered in the way that you communicate with yourself when you need to get something done. And I understand that perhaps you've put yourself in a position where you've created this pattern where the only way to motivate yourself to get something done is to shame yourself or to kind of pressure yourself. We gotta find a way to change that pattern. And in order to change that pattern, we got to bring awareness to it. And that's what we're doing here. And then once you integrate that, you'll be able to kind of change that language. That's what we're talking about with Poet and Gambler. And you'll be able to change that language, the way that you communicate. You'll be able to change the tone. And then that helps you integrate this lesson. Yay! Any last advice for group 1? Lullaby, and look at the colors again, first of all, and then lullaby is about the soothing of the anxiety, especially of a child when it's trying to go to sleep, right? The soothing of that negative talk. Let's see, let's read that for you. That is 38. Restoration, dreams, rhythms, lullaby. Celestite is also really good for clarity through dreams and for lucid dreaming. This card says, as dusk arrives, we notice a cello player about to play a lullaby to welcome the sleep we need so dearly. The cycles of day and night, light and dark, orchestrate our natural sleep rhythms. We give so much during the day, night is our time to recover. On his instrument, we can see the moon and stars. They are guardians of our dreams tonight. Rest with nature's lullaby blowing gently through the window. Tomorrow wake to all the days of your life. I think what's interesting here is that I had talked about pulling an all-nighter, and when we do that, when we put ourselves in position to have to pull an all-nighter, we take away the luxury of our basic needs, right? Which is sleep, rest, and recovery. We take that away from us. Because we put ourselves in a position where it's like, okay, now I gotta do what I gotta do, right? But this is really kind of highlighting the importance of, you can feel really pressured and behind on something and still deserve to rest, and you still deserve to take care of yourself. Because this is also not just about homework, right? We're talking about feeling behind in life, feeling behind in career, in family, and finances. And so that you can be frustrated with where you're at, and you still deserve restful sleep. You still deserve to recharge and to take care of yourself and to feel good, like on a physical basis, right? Because that in itself will then also help you to manage the mental anguish more. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope it resonates. Leave me a comment and let me know what you're feeling, what you're thinking, if you feel like it. Other than that, if you would like to book a personal reading, you can do so on my website. Please know that I will never message you to sell you a reading, so please don't get scammed. But I do love doing personal readings. I also offer astrology readings, so if you would like to book that, go check out my website, which is linked below. Other than that, I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi, Group 2. This is your reading if you chose the dark granite and the spectralite/labradorite. It's a type of labradorite, apparently. All right, this is your reading. We are going to do a general reading, so we are asking Spirit whatever you need to hear at this time, whatever you need to bring to your awareness is exactly what we're going to talk about. So, don't know which area of your life this may pertain to, but chances are it bleeds into every area of life. That's typically how it goes. So, let's see. Spirit. For Group 2. I'm excited to see what comes out because these energies to begin with are already very intense. So I'm excited to see where this goes. For Group 2, what do we need to talk about? What do we need to bring to our awareness? What's going on? There's the Nine of Cups. You're like, I'm fine. I'm fine. What do you got? Ooh, we got the Sun. What is happening? Queen of Cups poking out for a second. Oh. All right. So, this is interesting because the Ten of Cups flies out and it's sort of upside down. So I'm in this moment trying to consider what does it energetically feel like. So then I take a glance at the bottom of the deck and we have the Death card. So I do feel like it's meant to be in reverse. I will take it as such. And then at the bottom of the deck, we do have the Death card. This is interesting because we've got some very intense positive energies here. And then we have this Page of Swords. And naturally, I'm like, what are you doing here? This feels like you are not trusting yourself. There's something where maybe you've been feeling better about something or things in general when it comes to yourself, and there's something where you're like, I don't trust this. I also get the sense that there's something here where it feels like you're checking yourself because you don't want to come off too cocky, you don't want to be too prideful, or there may be a danger to do so. It's going to be different for different people, because some of you, I get the sense that there's a fear of like, oh, I don't, like, maybe it has a little bit to do with imposter syndrome. But for others, there's kind of like this is so interesting. Because it could be, it's two sides of the same coin, because one side of the coin is, I'm really good at what I do or who I am, but I feel like I don't have the right to claim that. And then the other side of the coin is, I'm feeling good about where I am, and I'm just going to claim it ignorantly. I'm just going to claim my wisdom, my knowledge, and place myself as an authority. So it could be either or. You kind of have to know where you fit in, because both seem to be a handicap. Because the fact that we have the Ten of Cups coming out in reverse along with the Death card indicates to me that we are somehow blinding ourselves with the Sun energy. We are blinding ourselves off the path of what actually is aligned for us. Now, I'm not trying to scare you here. That doesn't mean you're going in the wrong direction or anything like that. I just mean that there's something that we're making something more difficult than it needs to be, either because we think we are experiencing imposter syndrome and we think we're not good enough to pursue our happiness, or we are being distracted by prideful energy and therefore not being actually aware of what is aligned with our emotional happiness. And with the Death card, I like that, because I do think that indicates that this is coming to a change, that there's a transformation taking place within this, and hopefully it's really just kind of like a matter of redirection. It will depend on what comes out with this Page of Swords. Tell me about this Nine of Cups. We have the Moon. I think specifically taking into account, okay. Taking into account the fact that we have this dark granite and this labradorite here, I do think that you're feeling really good about where you're at when it comes to addressing or feeling in control of your emotional state, your subconscious, perhaps even your shadow. Like, there's something where it's kind of like, oh yeah, you've been putting a lot of effort into taking care of yourself. You've been putting a lot of effort into like healing certain things. And so emotionally, you're feeling well balanced. And then it's interesting because we have the Nine of Cups here, and then we have the Nine of Pentacles down here. Now, this indicates to me that your reality is not reflecting your emotional improvements yet. And so so this is leaning now more towards the imposter syndrome side of the coin, because it kind of feels like, well, I feel good about the progress that I've made, the healing that I've made, but I don't see the rewards of it yet. I don't see the actual impact in my life, in my 3D reality, of all of the emotional digging and uprooting and transmuting that I have done. I don't see the payout yet. And so then let's take a look at what comes out with the Sun, because that can really make or break us here. We have the Ace of Pentacles. I love that. Tell me about this Ten of Cups in reverse. Oh my goodness. Okay, I love this. I love this. I love this so much, because this is really setting us up. Okay, group 2, you guys are really close. You guys are really close to reaching not ultimate happiness or ultimate fulfillment, but reaching like this feeling of being okay. and being okay with where you're at and being able to enjoy the work that you have put in. You're really close, and that's not to say like, oh, you still need to do this, you still need to fix this about yourself, you still need to improve this. I don't think that is anything that we're going to be talking about, because I am going to the reason that this is exciting, because I can't even, okay. The reason that this is exciting to me is that this looks like something where we can ask a question to help us shift this energy in a way that you can access it more directly. And other than that, everything else in this reading is incredibly beautiful energy, aside from the fact that you don't fully trust it. You do not trust it. And that is part of the problem, and that is going to be how we're going to get there. But I want to focus on this row for right now. But this is making me really excited, because I'm like, all right, we're really kind of fine-tuning here, okay? So the Sun coming out with the Ace of Pentacles. So we're talking about the Page of Swords being an issue of not trusting the progress that we've made because we're not seeing proof in the 3D yet. In comes the Sun along with the Ace of Pentacles, which to me indicates that this is some sort of external confirmation. And the fact that the Sun is on top means to me that you are able to make this come in by really tapping into your positive attention. Now I'm not a big fan of like toxic positivity. Just telling yourself that everything's going to be okay isn't going to make everything okay, right? But there is power in it, and we all have, just the way that we all have masculine and feminine energy, I do think we all have the ability to kind of tap into our positive energy as well as our like more shadow, our more darker energy. And this is telling me that through a moment of not letting your disbelief that is fed by the lack of proof, to not let that take away from your joy and from your perspective and your hope and your faith that things are improving because you are improving. And again, I want to be really careful here, because I don't think that we do not constantly have to improve. Okay, but you have gone through some kind of cycle where you worked really hard on healing, on being okay, especially emotionally. You've been really working on your emotional stability. And so this is beautiful, but we can get really frustrated when we don't see rewards of that. When we don't, when we don't get the attention or the material payout that we expect. And there's something here of tapping into, well, that's okay if I don't see it yet, because ultimately I did it for my own emotional stability, and you know what? I feel better. And when you change that perspective of like, oh, I'm waiting to be rewarded, to recognizing, oh, I'm living the reward, I am the reward, because I am now a more emotionally balanced version of myself, and that in itself is the reward. Once you're able to tap into that, we get so much closer to kind of, and that's why I think the 10 of Cups in reverse is not so much a sign of like, oh, your happiness not coming in, as much as it is recognizing that your happiness is not a final destination. Oh my God, this... As I'm like listening to what I'm saying, I'm receiving the message. I'm literally just delivering it. So I can tell where this is going, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so corny, because it is coming out to literally with the Page of Wands, this is really about, it was about the journey all along. And I know that's so corny. Please, please don't click away. Because there is still some way that we can affect this energy. Again, this doesn't feel like a blockage, but this has everything to do with acceptance. This is everything to do with acceptance and accepting the ways in which you have managed to really be there for yourself. And even if there are no physical rewards of that showing yet, trust me, they are coming with this Ace of Pentacles. Trust me, they are coming. Even if they're not there yet, to know that you, even if there were no reward, it was still worth it because, again, you are a changed person. You are a more emotionally healed and emotionally aware person, and that in itself is the reward. But trust me, that's not all of it, because when you are a changed person, it ripples out and it changes the energies around you as well. Now, I do want to take a look at Spirit. I understand this is not a blockage. It's more so about the acceptance of where you're at, and that happiness is not a final destination. Happiness is something to experience on a daily basis when you choose to do so. Whew. Okay, but still, Spirit, can we get any advice on how to turn this Ten of Cups right side up? The Six of Swords. And then at the bottom of the deck, we still have the Page of Wands. I like that. Because it is still about, like, the journey keeps going. It keeps going. You don't just reach a point of happiness and then it's like, the end. No, the journey keeps going. The Six of Swords is about moving on to calmer waters. You are closing a healing cycle. Absolutely. You are closing and completing a healing cycle. And that is also probably informing you about what doesn't make you happy anymore, because you are emotionally stable more. You know, we never reach like, okay, I'm done. It's not like you're a loaf of bread and now you're done baking and you're going to be emotionally stable for the rest of your life. That's not how it works. I wish it was how it worked. But you learn how to manage, right? You learn how to regulate your emotions and how to understand your emotions and all those things, right? But this has been a very intense cycle that is coming to a close. And because that created more emotional stability within you, the things that you previously thought would make you happy were the things that would have made an emotionally less stable version of you happy. So you are coming from a completely new foundation, and so we're realizing the things that we used to want are maybe not the things we want anymore. And so now maybe we don't quite know yet what would be technically at the finish line, right? And so it's about exploring, like, well, now that I am stable, what am I interested in? What do I want? What can I, what can I add to my life in order to provide me with more happiness or fulfillment? We have the third house, we have Scorpio energy, and we have Saturn. So the third house is a house of communication. It is a house of community, like the small, more intimate community is elementary learning. Very much connecting to the sun right now with this child here. Which we have children in 3 images here. We have the child and the sun card, we have the children in the 10 of cups, and we have this child on the 6 of swords. So that might play into into your storyline here, because this may have to do with the idea of taking care of your own emotional well-being first before being able to even, like, you know, consider either having children or the well-being of the children that you do have. Like, that there's something where it needs to be brought into balance before we can focus on that area. But going back to the dice, the third house is all about the way that we process thoughts. And so I do think that there is kind of like a shift taking place here in that regard. But also the third house is really about, I like to say that it has the feeling of connective tissue, because it can also represent our siblings and public transit, like transportation, things as such. So it's really about connective tissue. And so in that regard, I do feel like we're talking here about the way that you categorize what you're building towards. Because again, with the Ten of Cups, we're thinking about the end goal, right? And I think we're adjusting the end goal here in a lot of ways. Especially with Saturn, we're talking about foundational energies, and with Scorpio, we're talking about purging things that don't serve us. So again, you've purged something emotionally, got that out of your system, and then now we're rectifying where that had previously kind of affected your desire for certain things. Yeah, I think you're simply moving on from things that once upon a time you thought you were working towards, that you wanted, that you were hoping for, that you were manifesting, and now that you've closed some kind of healing cycle or in the process of closing that healing cycle, and you're realizing that your material life either doesn't match up or it hasn't caught up yet to your healing, you're realizing, oh, well then I get to decide what I call in, and I'm going to call in something that's different from what I used to think I want or need. All right. Whoops. I may be carried away here. I was getting carried away by your reading in general because we're already 20 minutes in and I haven't even pulled any oracle cards. All right. Spirit, what are some significant energies? By the way, that was my mouse. That was my Mac mouse that fell to the ground. That's okay. What are some significant energies taking place in Group 2's life right now that are connected to the reading? What are some significant energies taking place in regards to this reading? Maybe one more? Okay, we got 2. We have body. And notice how the body card kind of resembles this 9 of Cups. So again, you brought something into balance. You really, I think, specifically, we are talking about the physical body here, but because this depiction has all of the chakras on it, we're talking about the spiritual body as well, right? You've been putting a lot of effort into your spiritual body, and we're not quite seeing the effects on the material realm yet, but you will. Specifically, there's something that you've been working on healing about yourself. And again, because I'm saying healing about yourself, that doesn't mean that there was a flaw to be worked on, but more so, you know, it's something that you're embracing. That actually goes very nicely with this card, and especially with tears. There's some kind of emotional healing that has taken place that you really are meant to kind of, you're meant to be really proud of it, first of all. You are. With the 9 of Cups and the 9 of Pentacles and the Sun card and the Ace of, like, Spirit is saying, good job. Good job. Absolutely. You've been doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that can be really difficult at times because we don't always get a standing ovation when we do the really, really difficult work, because that difficult work typically takes place in private. It is very intimate. And so there's nobody there to cheer us on, for most of us, right? And so, especially when we then have realizations, epiphanies of like, oh my God, I've always been doing this because of that and that. And I realized that that's affecting what I thought I wanted from life. And when that changes, that's so profound. That's such a profound shift. And then we look around and it's like, I don't even have anyone to tell because nobody would get it, you know? And so this is really taught with embrace and tears and body. I think this has a lot to do with being really, really intimate with yourself and really honest with what you need to release, because with tears, I'm thinking about the cleansing effect that tears have. And so, you know, letting them go, letting them out, letting the pain out of your body, letting the expectation. And that's the thing, I don't think it's just simply pain. I think it has a lot to do with, you know, the hopes and the dreams that we had maybe in pursuing a life with a particular person or in a particular way, and feeling like that's a dream that I had a long time and I have to let that go because I've changed and I don't, you know, it's not realistic to chase that kind of dream with that person or that kind of dream when my desires or my awareness around my desires have changed. And so there is a little bit of a grieving process here that may have to do with releasing an old version of yourself, like feeling a loyalty towards an old version of yourself, or perhaps even feeling a loyalty towards a person, grieving the loss of a person that you thought you would have around, and finding ways to feel happy and excited again without that person around, which can then kind of trigger these feelings of guilt, you know. And there's something here where Spirit is generally saying that it's okay for you to heal, and it's okay for you to want and desire new things, and to have that be very separate from an old version of yourself, that is still an expression of you, and that deserves to live. Okay, Spirit, can we get some advice for group 2? This will be in order for group 2 to fully integrate the message of this reading. What is an energy that group 2 should release in order to fully integrate the message from this reading? What is an energy for group 2 to release, to let go of, grow away from? And then what is an energy to embrace, to grow towards? Okay. So in order for you to fully embrace and integrate the information from this reading, Spirit is asking you to kind of sit with it, to not just kind of push through it and move on. There is something here about sitting with the message, especially with embrace as well, still popping out between these cards. There's something about really allowing yourself to sit with this instead of just pushing through. I think in general, something that's coming through here is the importance of integration versus transformation. Okay, so with Pioneer, We are constantly looking to move away, to create something completely new. With healer, we are accepting, and we talked about that earlier, we are accepting the experiences that we've had and integrating the knowledge of them, but allowing the pain and the hurt to kind of be extracted. And with Pioneer, perhaps this put us previously in a position to kind of like outrun the pain. Maybe we've previously been kind of like keeping ourselves busy, especially working on self-improvement, right? Because I do see you've done a lot of work when it comes to emotional balance, but sometimes we can hyperfixate on self-improvement to the point that it's not healing anymore. It's not healing. It's really just pushing you to constantly improve, to constantly grow, to constantly be. And that is perhaps why we feel this frustration of like, why am I not seeing results? Because you're not looking at yourself in a loving way, because you're expecting yourself to produce, you're expecting yourself to have like shown, to be able to show something for it all. And the thing is that what you have to show for is it's incredibly intimate, and it's incredibly internal, and it's about how you feel, how you approach each day. That is I think something where you've gained a lot of emotional healing, that days are okay. You may have previously been in a time where specifically grief, or where just this longing was so overwhelming, and you've gotten to a point where emotionally you're more in balance, you're more in control again. And so you've gotten there because you've pushed yourself and pushed yourself and pushed yourself. But Spirit is saying that there's a time now to kind of really take into account the healing that you have managed to embrace. Oh, I just realized that word came up again. All right. Spirit, any last considerations or advice for group 2? We have the snake, which is also all about healing, and beautifully aligns with, and look at health. Again, we're talking so much about healing, but the snake beautifully aligns with what I was trying to say, because I was trying to make a distinction between integrating and healing, right? Think about, because I was talking about how just transforming is not the answer, because then we're kind of just like trying to change, trying to grow away from something, versus with healing, we're still accepting that is part of who we are, but we're also not allowing the emotional baggage of it to keep us stuck. And I think that comes out beautifully with the imagery of a snake, specifically this snake, because it has such a distinct pattern. When the snake, what is it called when they shed their skin? I know there's a word for it, but when they do that, I don't think it's molt, because that's feathers, right? But whenever they start shedding their skin, sometimes it comes off in like these giant, like entire pockets. I'm not a fan. I think snakes are beautiful from a distance, but I'm not a fan up close. Anyways, when this snake sheds its skin, the pattern that's on its skin is going to be on the new skin. And that's what I was talking about here, is that we can transform, we can try to outrun something, but it's still within us. So until we fully accept that this is part of who we are now, and that we have to kind of take stock of, okay, I'm a different version of myself now, so I need to take a look at what still aligns with who I am now, and what is something that maybe doesn't align with me anymore. And then we start shedding, but it doesn't mean that we are completely, with Pioneer, we're trying to outrun something. With Healer and the Snake, we're accepting. We're accepting that that was part of our journey, part of our experience, but that we also can live informed but unaffected from it in the future, right? Yes, it affected us at the time, and then we went through the healing process and took the wisdom we could get from it and let it inform us moving forward without having to feel guilt for that information changing the direction in which we are trying to grow towards ultimate fulfillment. Because sometimes people do, you know, I mean, imagine if you had a specific dream all your life and you're like, I want to be a singer, I want to be a singer, I want to be a singer, I want to be a singer. And then you go through something and you realize that maybe your singing is just an intimate way for you to engage with yourself, and that you actually don't want to be a singer. Singing just makes you really happy. And that is something that then might change the complete trajectory of what you're focused on, what you're working towards, because maybe you come to realize, I don't want to be a professional singer because that'll take the joy out of it. And so I just want to sing, you know, in a group setting, in a community, in a choir or something like that. And that can completely change the way that you even get to access. You could even create a shortcut to something that brings you joy, and you get to experience it on a more daily basis versus, again, it being something off in the distance that is an end goal, final destination. Oof, okay. Spirit, any last advice? This last one we're going to read from the booklet, as always. Any last advice for group 2? Oh, my goodness. Okay. We're taking day and night. Queen Bee wanted to come out for a second, which to me is just talking about how magnetic you are at this time, which is clearly coming through with the Nine of Cups, the Nine of Pentacles, and the Sun card, and the Ace of Pentacles. You are extremely magnetic at this time. Do not take that for granted. So let's read day and night, because I do think that this has a lot to do with your being able to not take that for granted, has a lot to do with being able to tap into those more positive energies and to embrace the fact that you're able to recognize both. You've seen both sides of something. And so this is really about a reminder of embracing the positive sides, because you have a lot of that coming in. All right, we have day and night. It says uncertainty, fear, worries, decisions to be made, follow your instincts. The girl we see on this card is holding the sun in her hands while the moon is at her back. She looks uncertain, as if she has a question in mind but does not know the answer. What is she thinking about? Is she afraid of the answer or the inward process to find it? Many of us struggle with making decisions, but where there is shadow, there is also light. After a dark night, there is always the light of the morning sun, warming the path we have chosen. This card reminds us that we already hold all the answers in our hands. We should trust our inner judgment and know we will be able to handle any situation. I do feel, along with the Sun card, that this is kind of like an indicator of a season changing for you. I do think that, you know, you're coming out of, we had the moon over here, and then we have the sun here, and then we have the moon and the sun here, right? I do think you're coming out of kind of like a dark night of the soul vibe season of your life, and I think you're headed towards embracing the light more. However, what I think is really important to recognize is, again, we're not looking at a final destination. We're looking at how can we integrate joy on like a daily basis. And that's why I think this card is really significant for your reading with day and night, because here we're talking about a process that is cyclical on a very fast basis, right? It's night every night. It's day every day. And so that's what we're talking about, that it's okay, especially because I do feel like some of you have issues of guilt around something, and perhaps towards a version of yourself or someone else that you're related to. There's some kind of guilt of like, but if I just feel good, then I'm gonna, like, it's all gonna come catch up to you somehow, that you're gonna get this pocket of like depression, of feeling bad or feeling like you've betrayed an old version of yourself. And this is saying that moments will come, but moments will go. Okay? Moments of feeling down will come, and moments of feeling up will come, right? Moments will come and moments will go. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope it resonates. Let me know in the comments how it made you feel, if you feel like sharing. Other than that, if you would like to book a personal reading, you can do so on my website. Please be aware of scammers. I will never message you, DM you to try and sell you a reading, but I do love doing personal readings. I also offer astrology readings, and you can book that on my website, which is linked below. Other than that, I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi, Group 3. This is your reading if you chose the Opal Fire and the Peach Moonstone. My brain froze up for a second, but we're good. We're back. We're back online. All right, we're going to get right into your reading. So we are asking, what do you need to know at this time? What do we need to bring to your awareness? What's going on? What's something that you need to hear? So Spirit, for Group 3, let's get into it. Why are these shuffles so bad? Okay, give me one more. Good enough. All right, Spirit, for Group 3. What is going on? What do we need to talk about? What does Group 3 need to hear at this time? I don't know why, but I have my eyes closed right now as I'm shuffling, and I'm seeing Crocs. I don't know why. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O. Okay, all right. Give me one more here. All right. We got it. Yeah, you're good. I was concerned for a second, but you're good. You're fine. Okay, first card out is the Five of Cups, then we have the Four of Cups, so a little bit of a regression there. This is this energy of feeling, really kind of enveloped in some sort of grief, and then getting to the point where it probably is exhausting and it's just easier to kind of turn off. Four of Cups is a card of apathy, emotional apathy. And so that's concerning, right? When we're just looking at these two, it's like, oh no, this could go bad. However, then we get the Ace of Swords and the Chariot card, and I love that because that to me is kind of, actually, as I'm saying that, maybe we're gonna have to see what else comes out here, but that to me at least is kind of like the decision to be like, you know what? I'm taking charge here, like I'm done feeling this way, so I'm taking charge and I'm leading my way out of this for myself. Now, we're not quite taking action yet. This is still a little bit, I'm looking for a different word, but I'm hearing the word hyperbolical. That's not what I was looking for. I was gonna say it's still a little bit theoretical. However, the word hyperbolical wanted to come out for some reason. Now with the Justice card, this is interesting. Yeah, see? Okay, that's what I was going to say, because I was going to say that this is a way of telling yourself, all right, that's enough. That's enough being sad. We're over this now. And then trying to convince yourself And then with the Justice card, I was like, okay, but something is still like not fully addressed here. And so then we go beyond that and we have the King of Cups. And that is your emotional masculine energy. We all have masculine and feminine energy. So it doesn't really matter which gender you subscribe to. But with the King of Cups, this just indicates that your emotional nature, specifically your masculine emotional nature, which is the emotional nature that informs you on how to take action, is not being honored in this scenario. Is not being honored, and is kind of like snitching to the Justice to be like, hey, this fool isn't listening to me. Sorry, I'm not trying to laugh, but that was I can't control the way these things come out, and so they make me giggle sometimes. But ultimately that's what's taking place here, because there's some kind of emotional suppression, and probably, trust me, I'm not judging you, it's probably coming from a place of just being exhausted of feeling, right? Just being exhausted of like, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to think about it anymore. I just want to like be done. And so then there's this decision of like, I'm deciding I am done. We're starting a whole new cycle. And the Chariot card. So the reason that I say that this is still kind of theoretical / hyperbolical apparently, is that the Chariot card, while often kind of interpreted as a card of movement, there is no movement in this card. It is the decision to move. It is the power to move. It is the determination to take action, which always is going to require consideration previously. So I like that we have consideration here, even though it feels a little abrupt from this Four of Cups, because to me, this is kind of like a turning down of our emotional input. And that sometimes can lead us to make reckless decisions when we try to avoid some sort of emotional fallout, right? Let's see. Let's get some more information here. Tell me about this Five of Cups. Okay, we're staying very literal over here, which is fine. It's Spirit saying it's as simple as that. Like, you got a boo-boo, you got an ouchie. It sucks. I'm not trying to minimize it at all. There's something that emotionally hurt you. There's something that you found out. Now we have Three Cups fallen over here. We got Three Swords. So there may have been some kind of situation of like, a friendship that was between three, I'm thinking three people, but I'm not thinking third party the way that it typically comes up romantically. Although, whatever, take it as it resonates. Somebody may have spilled some beans. That's what's coming through. Somebody may have spilled some beans. There's some kind of information that you learned of like, these are some people I cannot trust, or this is something that didn't work out. This is something that I was emotionally invested in and it didn't work out. What I was starting to say though is that for some reason it kind of feels like there's a situation where three people are involved, and somebody got the short end of the stick. Anyways, tell me about this Four of Cups. There's something that you're angry about, and that's the thing. You're not comfortable. So I always pay attention to the cards that kind of pop out, but they pop back in. And we had the Page of Cups and the Knight of Wands coming out. And to me, this is telling me that there's something where you were either hopeful, maybe you had a crush, maybe you had a certain desire, and something didn't work out the way you wanted it to. There's disappointment and there's anger. And the thing is that there's some kind of discomfort in dealing with something, and I'm not sure, it could be both, but it's either you're not comfortable with facing the disappointment or you're not comfortable with facing anger that is caused by the disappointment. And so I'm not sure if it's like you're actually trying to suppress emotions or if you're trying to suppress anger, which that's only going to come back stronger when you try to suppress that. Tell me about this Four of Cups, please. We have the Fool card. Yeah, you're just kind of like, I'm fine. I don't really want to think about it. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not feeling anything. Oh, that's old news. That happened yesterday. There's a little bit of refusal to deal with it here emotionally. Tell me about this Ace of Swords. No, the Justice card. And give me one more for this Chariot. Tell me about the Chariot. The Two of Pentacles, see? I told you we're not actually taking action here. We're just kind of convincing ourselves. What is this Ace of Pentacles? The Temperance card. Okay. Okay. Oh, I see. I'm telling you, your anger is going to be significant in this. And I don't think that you realize it because you're suppressing it. Now, I do want to point out that Peach Moonstone is really good for heart healing. You have a bruised heart. Please note, I'm not identifying you as damaged. Absolutely not. I just want to make that clear. There's a little bit of a bruised heart here. Emotionally, we're facing some damages. Now, there is a potential for you to be so uncomfortable with the sadness that you kind of skip over it, try to suppress, and then it becomes very analytical all of a sudden. Like it becomes like a matter of principle. It becomes like, oh, I'm not sad because somebody hurt my feelings. I just want to make sure that you understand that, like, logically, this is really fucked up and this is not right, and, like, I need some justice here. Like, it becomes very argumentative, which is fine, but the motivation, you're totally allowed to make your case, to plead your case, and to let someone know if they've hurt you. Absolutely fine. But I fear that we're kind of blurring the motivation because I think you're putting yourself in a position where you're going to tell yourself like, oh, it's just a matter of principle and I don't really feel this. It doesn't really, like, it's not, there's something where either you're going to over rationalize and then because of that, struggle to actually understand which action you want to take afterwards because you've muted your emotions. So we have the Ace of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, the Temperance card underneath that, and the Ten of Cups underneath that. And we're talking about an opportunity to bring something actually into balance. An opportunity to actually bring your emotions into balance and not just like convince yourself of something. I get the sense that maybe you feel like, oh, it's been so long that I've felt this that I really should be over it by now. Like, it's silly to actually, like, you know, kind of re-engage my emotions in this because it's like, oh, it feels like it's been so long. But I don't know, something is telling me that you actually intellectualized the experience at a point in time when you were actually ready to move on to the next stage instead of moving on to the next stage of healing, which would have probably been acceptance. There was this pushback to be like, no, I don't accept this. I don't accept the way this is, and so I'm just gonna like try to re-engage in this, and this time pick it apart, not in an emotional way, but pick it apart maybe in a logical way. And I think really what Spirit is saying is like, okay, the way that you've chosen, are we actually moving here? Are we actually creating any closure? Are we actually making any progress towards our healing? Progressing, which is here. I'm gonna get us some advice on how to get from here to here, because here Spirit is sort of feeling kind of challenging here. Like it feels more so like a question that is being directed at you, which is very interesting, because it really kind of is like, well, this is the, like, you feel like this has worked? Okay, I'm gonna take these 3. Spirit, can you connect the dots for us here? Can we get some advice on how to get from this Chariot to that Ace of Pentacles? Can we get some advice here? We have the King of Swords. See, now the King of Swords would align with the Ace of Swords and the Justice card, though. Give me one more here. There's nothing left for you here. You're lingering in a space. I don't know if it's emotionally or logically, but you're lingering in a space where there is nothing left for you, and you are. That's what I said earlier with this Fool card. Like, you've emotionally held on to a place, and then it got really exhausting, and it's like, okay, I can't hold on to it anymore emotionally. But then you're like, oh, I'll re-engage with it from like a critical perspective. And it just feels kind of like maybe then you switched into anger, or the suppressed anger then kind of took the lead, because then it became very, it just feels, it just feels like we're not moving on from something. And in order to move on, it's going to require for us to recognize that there's nothing left to harvest in whatever the situation was. This King of Swords has a lot to do with being honest about the impact of a situation, about what there is left. And with the Two of Wands at the bottom of the deck, we're looking more forward facing. We're looking more for like future potential. And this has everything to do with acceptance. Can you confirm that for me? It feels like you're lingering somewhere because you feel like you're not fully healed. It's kind of like when you get a break within your emotions, then your logical mind kicks in, and then it's like all the facts come together. It really feels like you're battling, it almost feels like you're battling for two sides, but neither one of them is actually interested in your well-being. It's kind of like, that's why I'm saying it feels like there's 3 parties here, 3 parties of interest, because it feels like you are actually battling for other sides, and neither one of them actually is a side that wants or that promotes you feeling more imbalanced again, because one is emotional and one is mental. Oof, what did I walk into here? This feels like you're at war with yourself. Okay, we have the Queen of Wands, and that was because I was asking for a confirmation of what I said in regards to the Five of Pentacles, and that is a confirmation for me. Let's get you some oracle cards. Spirit, can we get some, what are some of the most significant energies that group 3 is facing within this reading, within this energy? What are some of the more significant energies that group 3 is facing? We have joy and observe. And at the bottom of the deck, we have express. You are not experiencing. I'm telling you, you're stuck somewhere. You're stuck somewhere and you are really trying to understand something, like you're trying to intellectualize something. You're trying to harvest something. You're trying to find the answers to your questions about how to get back to your joy. You're trying to find the answers to that in a place that does not have the answers. That's mainly the main theme that I'm seeing in your reading, is that your energy is very focused looking back, and you're not, but you're like hyper focused on like multiple levels, on an emotional level, on a logical level. And Spirit is saying you're not facing in the right direction is all, because you're looking for answers to how can I experience joy again. You're looking for answers in a place that does not have the answers. Because in order to find the answers, you got to look forward. You got to look onward. You do actually have to understand that there's nothing left for you to harvest. So this could have to do with waiting around for a certain romantic situation to take a turn, waiting for someone to return, waiting for a friendship to feel the way it used to, waiting for a job to give you the freedom or the rewards that you're looking for. There's something that is very empty, and it feels like you are still there. It feels like an empty room, and you're like, I was told to wait here, so I'm waiting here. It's like you're in a waiting room, and then you start getting irritated because it's like, where, like, this isn't right. Like, I got here on time. Like, I should have been serviced. Like, I don't know what you're in, what kind of waiting room you're in, but there's this feeling of, and this happens, when. Personally, I grew up in a family that was very vocal. Whenever we're in restaurants and something isn't what we ordered, like that, we have no problem speaking up, because you're there paying for a service. You have to do it in a friendly way, of course. But I know that people exist that when they get the wrong order, they don't speak up, but then they start getting irritated because it's like, that's not what I want. Well, then speak up. If this is not what you wanted. And that's kind of the energy that I'm sensing, is that I'm seeing you in like an empty room, and you're sad that you're by yourself, and that you're dealing with the emotions of being alone in this empty room. And then you're like, whatever, I'm not going to focus on how it's making me feel. But then you're focused on, well, there's only this many chairs, and the appointment was at this time, and there's been no other people here before me. Like, what's the problem? Then you become very logical, and you start arguing with yourself, still not externally, but still with yourself of, well, this isn't right, this isn't right. But then you don't take action. You don't get out of the room. You're just sitting there being huffing and puffing and being like, well, I'm about ready to leave the room. okay? I'm sorry. I feel like the energy got really intense for a second. But we gotta leave the room. We gotta leave. There's nothing for you in this room. There's nothing, there's no answers there for you. There's a door, and you gotta go through the door and see what's beyond that door. All right. Spirit, in order for group 3 to... Oh, I just realized I haven't rolled my dice. Let me roll my dice right quick. Can I get some energies on this? We have the first house, which is the house of self. We have Mercury energy, and we have Capricorn. Okay, so I can see why it feels like you are just very settled in, I need to gather as much information as I can before I feel like I'm safe to make a move, make a change, move on, leave the room. So I understand. Trust me, I'm a fixed sign, and I understand. I understand. Trust me. However, this is telling me that the energies that this is affecting is your mental processes and the way that you stay very fixated on certain things and how that is affecting your relationship to yourself. Okay? All right, Spirit, in order for group 3 to be able to appropriately integrate the information from this reading, what is an energy for them to release, to let go of, so they can fully integrate the advice that came through in this reading? What is an energy to let go of, to release? We have Athlete. This has everything to do with endurance, because I do think that you feel like I'm waiting in the room, like I'm patient. Look, I'm so patient. I'm so patient. And it's kind of like you're proving like I have the endurance. I have what it takes. But especially if we're talking about you in a relationship with someone and you're like, look at how patient I am. Look at how enduring I am. You shouldn't have to prove your endurance, right? You should be in a loving connection where we're both, whether that's romantic or platonic, where both parties are equally showing up, and not you being able to prove how long you can wait in the room all by yourself without any emotional or mental support, right? So this is very much like, look what I can do. I can hold it. I can hold it. And it's like you're like an athlete, right? Holding something up, and you're like, I got it. And it's like, you're suffering. Let it go. And you're just like, nope, I got it. And it's like, leave the room, babe. You're suffering. Even if you tell yourself, like, logically, like, it's fine, like, no. Okay, what is an energy for group 3 to embrace, to grow towards in order to integrate this reading? We have child nature. It says friendships with animals, communication with nature spirits. I just felt like reading that out for a second. And then we have networker at the bottom of the deck, which is all about kind of connecting with people that have things to offer, but also connecting the dots, because I'm still looking at this observe card. There's some kind of situation where you think if you just look at it long enough, if you just handle it long enough, if you just endure it long enough, then you can figure it out, and then you can let joy return to it. You can't. This is about accepting things as they are, and allowing something to guide you in a different direction. Specifically because this girl is holding a bunny, I'm thinking of Alice and following the bunny. There's something that really wants to engage you in whimsy again, that wants to, especially with that joy card, look how silly it is, right? There's something that is trying to lure you towards engaging in more beauty again, and engaging in filling your own cup again. And it's trying to entice you. And whenever I'm doing movements with my hand, it's because I'm literally translating the way the energy feels. And that's what this is feeling like. Like all the energy over here is kind of like, come here, come here, come here. And you're like, nope, I have an appointment in this room and they said they would be here and I gotta wait. And it's very like strict and logical. And like I said, very enduring, right? But my goodness, even the I don't know why this is coming through. Even like the Energizer Bunny needs to change out its battery at some point in time. So this is about really embracing your nature more, your literal nature. And I think that you are very patient and kind and giving and loving, which is why you're still in the room. But you deserve to show yourself that kindness and that loving. And you also deserve to let yourself heal from those emotions, to first of all, live those emotions out loud so that you can transmute them, and then with that knowledge, move out of the room. All right. Oh, wrong deck. This one first. Spirit, any last considerations or advice for group 3? Any last considerations or advice? Okay, we have Aurora Borealis, which of course has been on everybody's lips recently because of that huge solar flare that we had. But even before then, whenever the Aurora Borealis card comes out, I tend to say the same thing, because to me, this card speaks about being at the right place at the right time. So what that means, yes, you have been in the room. Again, the room, just a metaphor. It just feels like a confined space of a place where you can't escape the fact that you have been dealing with this emotional turmoil. And you've been stuck in that place for so long that you learned how to kind of turn down the emotions, turn up the like rational mind, and it feels like that's you making progress, but you're still in the room. Okay, and we got to get you out of that room. And with Aurora Borealis, this is saying that the way to get yourself out of there is not through shame, because with Aurora Borealis, being at the right place at the right time means that if you are currently finding yourself still in that room, that's okay. It's part of the process. Okay, it's part of the process, and the advice in order to get yourself out of there is to accept where things are right now. And accepting also comes along with, this is how it was supposed to be. Yes, it hurts, it sucks, because there's clear disappointment that you've experienced, but for some reason that you don't yet see, that you don't yet know, that you don't yet understand, it had to happen this way. Because it's going to inform you, crack you open, put you on the path towards something, some place, some time that you need to be at the right place and time for. Okay, so this is part of, it's kind of like a particular junction, and if you feel like you've been stuck for a long time, could have been a little holding cell, which is awful. It feels awful, I know. But Aurora Borealis is really talking about the faith in the unseen things. Because sometimes there are things that you cannot intuit, that you cannot see until you are right in the midst of them. Okay, Spirit, any last advice? This one we are going to read from the booklet. Any last advice for group 3? We have treasured memories. I'm telling you, you are holding on to something, and this card is going to confirm us that you can remember something and still let it go. I know it feels very confusing of like, how do we do that? But it's It's understanding the experience of something and integrating the knowledge of it and holding on to the encouraging and positive emotions that were attached and releasing the negative emotions. Integrating them in a way that we learn from them, but not holding on to them so that they don't inform every reaction that we have. Okay, let me read this to you. It says, treasured memories. Memories, nostalgia, recognition. We see a woman sitting calmly in the grass. She looks forward to somewhere we don't know, while her mind is drifting in the past. With both hands, she is holding a floating balloon filled with clouds. These clouds are old memories she wants to keep and treasure. Our past experiences don't define us. We can't live the life we had long ago. But the past does shape us, and remembrances of loved ones and joyful times can help us be our best selves today. This is a beautiful confirmation of what we've talked about so far, and that is really that there are energies headed your way that are luring you towards moving forward, coming out of that room, coming out of that state. So that is something to look forward to. And what you need to do in order to embrace that more is to embrace your natural curiosity, embrace being at calm, at peace, instead of trying to prove something, trying to prove a case, trying to prove that you are right, trying to prove how patient you are, trying to prove how good of a friend you are. You don't have anything to prove to anyone. And then lastly, that you need to accept that the past doesn't really hold any more answers for you, that moving forward, sometimes, you've collected everything you could. You've collected all the context clues, but you might not be able to arrange them in a way that makes sense until you've moved forward, until you've moved out of the room. And so at some point, looking back, things might start making sense, like we said with Aurora Borealis. But right now, there are no significant answers for you to dig up in the past. It's time for you to move onward and forward. And then at some point, I'm telling you, you're going to be able to connect dots at a point in time where it won't emotionally trigger you. That's the thing. Right now, you're probably still emotionally too close to it. And you'll at some point, someday, have this epiphany of like, oh, I understand what happened there and why I reacted that way. And that's only going to come through the freedom that perspective allows you. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope it resonates. Leave me a comment to let me know what you think, what you feel, what's going on. If you feel like it. Other than that, if you would like to book a personal reading, you can do so on my website only. Please note that I will never DM you to sell you a reading. Please don't get scammed. Other than that, I do love personal readings. I also offer astrology readings, so if you would like to book, check out my website. Is linked in the description below. And other than that, I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care.